And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We are live right now, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, you know the drill. Hit like, share, subscribe, follow, retweet wherever you are watching. And most importantly, drop your comments, your questions as we get set to talk the 2024 American Express Pro-Am this week, plus a little recap of last week's, Sony Open. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Beard and Knowledge. We got my main man, Jason Sullivan, sitting next to me here at JSully2121. Good evening, Jason. How you doing tonight?
Good, buddy. Here in steamy Michigan, it's 5 degrees outside right now. So we're
You know what? I can't believe I'm actually pretty close. The car said 12 degrees on the way home.
I think it was a high of 12 here today. So listen,
It's
I'm
cold.
ready to watch some golf and some warm climates to make me.
Yeah, I won't lie. I won't lie. We had the first measurable snow in southern Chester County, our county, in over 2 years. We had over 2 inches of snow yesterday. We haven't had 2 inches in the last 2 years combined.
Philadelphia and your wife both not having 2 inches. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, whoa! Is that a bazinga right there? Marshawn, protect me, my man. One of my OGs here. Who got fired? Nobody got fired. We talk golf here every single Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Marshawn, the best fantasy and gambling golf show there is. Last week, Sony Open. Want to do a quick recap. Mainly, I do want to touch on our one and done choices and our lineups, but I do want to bring up the champion last week, Grayson Murray. And I love the Grayson Murray story, and not just because he's a recovering alcoholic and all that. Like, that's kind of cool. Okay. Sorry. Oh man, what did you start? Just so you know, Jason, Marshawn will be dropping 2-inch comments in the morning show tomorrow, like literally nonstop.
Sorry, bud.
Yeah, you really screwed me on that one there, Jason. I love the Grayson Murray story. He's a recovering alcoholic. He has fallen so far in the world rankings multiple times throughout his career. But the story about Grayson Murray that I love the most is when he was complaining about the new way of doing things on the PGA Tour and how it favors the top end guys and not the low end guys. What was Rory's answer to him last year?
I believe Rory said, "You don't like it, play better," or something like that.
It's exact. He said, "If you don't like it, go play better." And what has Grayson Murray done? He has jumped up with one win up into the top 40 in the world golf rankings.
The irony is, at the same time that he was climbing up the leaderboard in his tournament, Rory was falling in his tournament overseas. So
I just love that. Like, yo, you don't like it, do better, right? And then the person says, okay, I will do better. How many times in your life has somebody told you weren't good enough to get better at it? And did you succeed or fail more? Me, I've fallen down and fallen down further plenty of times in my life. So I love that story of him just proving Rory, okay, here, is this good enough for you? I love that story.
It's crazy too that 2 weeks in a row. Last week we had Chris Kirk, who obviously same type of deal. Obviously recovering alcoholic, same kind of thing. Completely different ends of the spectrum. We have Chris Kirk, who doesn't say 2 words, and then we have Grayson Murray, who always flies off the handle on Twitter. And
I remember Grayson Murray way before Fairway to Heaven even got started. Like in 2017, 2018, he was a hot young, up and coming golfer. You know what I mean? Like, he had a lot of potential, and he couldn't handle the pressure. He couldn't handle the sex, drugs, and rock and roll that I guess you have on the PGA Tour. The pressure of being on the PGA Tour. So I love that story. I love a redemption story. That's a very Philadelphia thing, a redemption story. We've got Rocky, we've got Vince Papale, we got all these, redemption stories in Philadelphia, true and false, and I love it. And so Grayson Murray, he wasn't one of my picks for the year, but now I'm going to be following Grayson Murray all year because
it'll be interesting too to see how he does the rest of the season. Does this catapult him up into kind of a contending world like Chris Kirk? I mean, over the past few years, Chris Kirk's kind of gotten back into things, and he's won a handful of times the past few years. It'll be interesting to see if Murray continues to pop, because he's that guy that will pop like 4 weeks a year, and you're like, oh my god, he's good. He'll finish top 5, and you're like, wow, he's really good, and then he disappears. So it'll be
the other aspect of it is also the now with the new rules and the new changes to the PGA Tour, he gets into the Masters. He gets into the he gets to go play at Sawgrass. every elevated event he is now in on.
Crazy.
His world's about to change and the pressure's going to be there. And you bring up Chris Kirk, I bring up Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark, I mean, it wasn't like he was winning every event. It wasn't like he's this great golfer. He goes out and wins the U.S. Open. A lot of pressure. Has Wyndham Clark even had a top 5 or 10 since winning the U.S. Open?
He was terrible after the U.S. Open last year.
Yeah,
He's been terrible this year too.
So it'll be
funny
real.
too?
When these
That's kind of
guys that
interesting.
come out of nowhere and win for the first time, it's kind of exciting to see what does that do for their trajectory.
It's kind of an interesting segue too, because he's rumored to go. Wyndham Clark's rumored to be going to John Rahm's team in Live right now. So
I did not even see that
yeah,
rumor. Damn.
so that's the rumor that's been going around. He hasn't been good, like you said. He hasn't been good at all since he won the what did he win, the U.S. Open?
Yeah, the
last
U.S.
year?
Open. Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in this week's field, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in this week's field. But
Yeah, here,
I mean,
I could
dare
pull up
I
his.
say,
Yeah.
I know he made the Ryder Cup team. I know he's what is he like top 10 in the world at this point right now? But dare I say, because to me it feels like he's super overrated. Like, yeah,
I
he's
mean,
one of
so
the
here,
most
so won the U.S. Open, then he went 29th at the Travelers, 25th at the Scottish Open, 33rd at the Open, 66th at the FedEx, and then the 15th at the BMW. But that's
Yeah.
what a 60-person
30
field and
people.
third at the
Yeah,
Tour
60
Championship.
people, yeah.
Yeah, so he definitely did not keep that momentum going for very long there after that. And
He's still getting that respect of being a major winner when he doesn't play like one anymore.
No, absolutely not. All
He
right,
might be
so
going anyway.
we both picked the one and done. So if anybody's new, one and dones are basically when it's kind of like a survivor pool in football. One and done, you pick a golfer each week. You can't pick them the rest of the year, and then we track how much money those golfers make, and we're gonna have a season long competition between Jason and myself. Winner of the competition at the end of the year gets a beer bought. Jason will be buying me a beer at the end of the year after I win this thing. I did not get off to a great start. I had Chris Kirk last week, who finished
That's
in
pretty
tied
solid.
for 18th place,
Still
made a
solid.
little over $100,000, and you had
Andrew Putnam, he finished T10, 209,000. So I mean,
you got about
honestly,
100,000 start on me here.
yeah, but
after week
considering
one.
neither one of us used a star, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean
Well,
the star. There weren't many stars in the field
No.
last week. This week it's a star-studded field, which is shocking. We'll get to that in a minute. Then we also did a competing DraftKings lineup, which you completely demolished me in last week. I had 404 points in my lineup. 4 out of 6 guys only made the cut in the lineup I chose on the air. How about yours?
Mine was 6 out of 6, 512 points. It was like one of those weeks that like I had a 6 out of 6, which is good, but all my guys finished in the teens, which is not gonna. I mean, for a while it was contending in a GPP, and then it kind of dropped over the weekend. So
And that's the thing with fantasy golf. I mean, it's a roller coaster. You were texting me on. I thought it was Friday, but it was really Saturday.
it was Saturday.
Lineups were. I'm like, oh, at least you got 2 more rounds. You're like, actually, no, not really. Um, last week was such a brutal week for me. And the thing with fantasy golf versus fantasy football and gambling on golf, it's a long season, and you really, really have to, keep your emotions in check. It's kind of how I feel because you're gonna have some really awful weeks. And last week, I actually had a really good player pool. I didn't have a really good week of lineups because Matthew Fitzpatrick was my main guy, and he missed the cut. So 13 or 14 of my lineups, just like that, were guaranteed not to have 6 for 6. But I still was contending a bunch of lineups throughout the weekend, and a couple of my bets were contending throughout the weekend. But then I ended up outside of showdowns, not cashing in a single one. So people really got to manage their emotions if they get the fantasy golf, right?
Well, and like you said too, you had a good player pool. Sometimes it's not who you pick; it's kind of the way you build rosters. A lot of people are starting to say that now. But I mean, like your Fitz call obviously hurt you, but like you touted Keegan as your favorite play of the week.
Yep. Yep.
And then I touted Benny Ann as my favorite play of the week. Well, they were right there, both right there. At the
Benny
end,
On was in my pool.
Yeah.
Brian Harmon was in my player pool last week. Aaron Rye had he was in almost 50% of my lineups, and he made the cut, but he finished in like 57th place. So I literally had like 5 or 6 guys finish in that 50 to 60th place pool or range in the lineups, and that's not winning you anything when you got a bunch of guys in the 50s and 60s.
But there were big swings last week too. I'm sure you saw Chris Kirk was up there. I think he was third at one point. He dropped all the way to 18. Eric Cole barely made the cut. He was like T52 after Friday, and he ended up finishing like 10th or something. So I mean, like you said, there's lots of swings in this world. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, this week I think it's a very interesting event because it's an interesting week. I'm not a fan of the American Express, which is the first Pro-Am of the year, but it's also the 3-course rotation out there in California. You got the Stadium course, La Quinta, Nicholas course. The rotation just is kind of annoying, but you also have to play that into account because the cut doesn't come till after the 3rd round, versus the second round. So it's an extra day of all your 6 for 6s scoring points. So you really need to go out there and get guys that are going to score because you got three days versus 2 opportunities. Um, what are your thoughts on the pro-am and the course rotation?
Hate the pro-am. I think that's not really going on too much of a limb. The course rotation is tough too because, like you said, 3 courses. They're all easy courses. You're going to have to score. Even the stadium course, which is the course they're going to play on twice, it's still an easy course. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And it's hard to kind of put things into stats here because stadium course is the only course that has shot tracker. So the other 2, they're no shot tracker at all. It's really hard to use stats in. Damn right. It's really hard to use stats for your picks this week. So really, you're just going to have to do like kind of a general model and go from there. And like you said, guys that score.
Yeah, I want to ask you 2 questions on that there because it's 2 things that have been mulling in my mind. I remember this show from last year, and we spent a lot of time talking about how you got to pick golfers that have patience, right? Because you're going to be playing 6-hour rounds. You're going to have an amateur or a celebrity or someone playing opposite you as your partner, and then he's patient. But then John Rahm goes out and wins. He's the most impatient person, on tour. So did we put too much emphasis on that?
I think we did. But here's the thing. Do you remember last year when Rahm said he won the tournament by all means, but I think it was Saturday night. He referred to this tournament as a quote unquote goddamn putting contest because he was pissed about how the tournament was, how easy it was. That's the other thing about like we worry about the time and like how much it's going to take when the amateurs are playing, but also pin location is interesting. Rick Run Good was kind of talking about that today a little bit on his podcast, and he was talking about how you're not going to have extremely difficult pin locations. There's not going to be tucked pins because you're playing with amateurs for the first 3 rounds. So
that was kind of my next question. Well, I wasn't going to go on the putting, but I was going to say the whole thing. The fairways are wider, the rough's not as thick.
You don't want to see 8 or 9 hour rounds, so they're not going to make it too difficult.
Do you imagine having to tee it up with John Rahm at an event like this
No.
and having to play John Rahm like tees and John Rahm pins? Like that's impossible, right?
So intimidating.
Yeah. I mean, playing with John Rahm would be intimidating anyway.
And he's pissed because it's taken forever. So
yeah. John Rahm, I know he's on live, and I'm going to talk John Rahm all year because it's the first live golfer that's really upset me leaving because I love watching him. John Rahm would cuss me out on the golf course. I'm just too goofy. You know what I mean? And I like to have way too much fun, and I don't take it seriously. I crack too many sarcastic jokes. He would absolutely hate. He would literally try to kick my ass on the golf course, probably.
He's a big boy too. So
he's a big boy. Absolutely a big boy. No John Rahm this year, obviously, because he is on live, so he cannot defend his crown. It is not an elevated event, so the purse is very small, but we have a star-studded event. You got 5 or 6 of the top 10 golfers in the world, 10 of the top 20. I have no idea how this field got so good this week.
I was surprised to see how many guys were playing in it. You have, like you said, JT, Scotty, Xander, Cantlay, Sungjae Im. I mean, it's a good field. Wyndham Clark, like
it's a really deep field. And you even got the great Daniel Berger making his first start in like 35 years this week.
That's crazy. He missed, what did he miss? Like almost 18 months out.
It was 18 months.
And that's a guy that I know that I love to play. I know you like to play him too.
Yeah, I mean, I had him. I remember 2 years ago when I did that crazy parlay of the 4 major champions, and I hit the first round of it, but then the third round of it, I had Daniel Berger, and that was right before he got hurt.
Right.
And we haven't seen him since.
And he played really well.
Adam wants to play around with John Daly.
Oh my god!
Me and John Daly would knock a few Miller Lights back for sure in around the golf, without a doubt.
A couple packs of cigs too along the way.
Did you ever see the little reel of John Daly rolling up to a golf course, cracks a beer, lights a cigarette, and says, "What's the course record?" and puts his tee right in the ground and gets ready to go. I love John Daly. So you got this deep event in a very interesting kind of week with the rotation and the easier course. How do you differentiate? Like, what do you? Obviously, you already said it's a putting contest. Do you go to some of the guys that have never played here before, or do you go to the guys that have done this event before and have the experience? Again, we put too much emphasis on not, or going with the guys that get grumpy really quickly last year. Are you even worried about the course history here, considering there's 3 different courses? Are you even worried about the amateurs when you're picking these players?
There's not that many guys that have good course history. I'm not sure if you looked at it, but
I got
I
the
mean,
course history right up here on the screen.
there's a handful, but there aren't a lot of guys that you're like, even the guys that have played well have had some shaky outings here too. Because it's weird.
Absolutely.
It's one of those. It is a putting contest. 3 different courses. Like you could see Scotty, for example, win this tournament by 10 shots or not make the cut. This is a weird tournament. It's not your typical,
Right.
higher event where the good players are going to rise to the top. You can see a lot of people win this week for sure.
Right. So I got another question then, because I'm anti ownership percentage. I know it's important, but it's not my I don't let it be my end all be all.
It's overblown.
It's
For sure.
overblown to an extent, yes. I mean, there's definitely room for that in your philosophies when you're building your player pool and your lineups, but I think it's a little overblown. But the problem is, this is also the first real event for a lot of these big name golfers, and all the top golfers, all the ownership. I mean, you look at it right now; it's still only Tuesday night. I'm looking at it. Scotty Scheffler somehow is only at 15%, but you got Cantley, you got Im both over 20. You've got 1, 2, 3. You got 3, 4, 5, 6. You got 7 guys over 15% projected. 4 of them are over 10,000 in price. You got guys in the 9 and upper 8s up there in ownership percentage. The ownership percentage right now is spread out, but really grouped to the stars. Are you just going to ignore that, or are you going to just pick one of these stars and then build the rest of your lineups around one specific star this week?
I'm surprised that Scotty is the lowest owned of the 10,000 range. Like, I mean, they're all good plays. You can argue for any of those guys. I think 100% that you could play them. My favorite 2 off the start were Xander and Cantlay. But on the flip side, like if you wanted to play Sanjay, I wouldn't say anything about it. But if you can tell me that Scotty is going to be the lowest owned of those top 4, I feel like you almost have to play Scotty.
See, and the point of me asking the ownership question was right there, because I don't worry. Like, I normally build my lineups Tuesday before this show. Like, I'm waiting because I want to see to the last possible second if Scotty Scheffler stays under that 20% mark. If Scotty Scheffler stays under 20%, you kind of have to play him, don't you? I mean, I know it's a putting contest, and he can get a little wonky with his putter, but maybe that's why his ownership is so low, is because occasionally he gets a little loose with his putter. I don't know.
He doesn't have great course history here, but it's not terrible either. I mean, he has some decent finishes. So,
I mean, he missed one cut. He's got a 3rd, 11th, a 25th, and a missed cut.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not awful.
I think people are scared because you're hearing everybody say putting contest. You know the guy can't putt. But if he gains 10 strokes tee to green, it might not matter either.
So, Adam, top 10, top 5. I haven't really looked at the top 10, top 5. I've kind of cut that out of my betting. I'm trying to really zone in on my outright bets this week, and this year, instead of wasting time on the top 5s and 10s. But I do know everything we've just talked about here about the top guys. When I looked at the outright board, which I don't know what their top 10 or top 5 numbers are, I would have no problem placing a top 10 bet, no matter what the odds are, on Patrick Cantlay and Sungjae Im. I clicked those 2 names immediately as outright bets when I started this week. And this is before ownership percentage came out, before the DraftKings prices came out. I'm like, I am betting Sungjae Im and Patrick Cantlay this week. I didn't know if they'd be in my player pool or not, but they were my bets. And now that I'm looking at the numbers and all, as long as his ownership doesn't get any higher, Sungjae Im will probably be my most clicked DraftKings guy. And like I said, at 20-1, he was my first bet that I made.
So you think he hasn't won in a while? You think he can win?
No. I like the upside because he's played this event many times very well. 18th, 11th, 12th, 10th, 12th. He's doing this course. Over the last 5 years, he is the only one that's gained over. Well, let me refresh this. Only one over 40 strokes gained total at this event over the last 5 years. He loves this event. He plays this event well. I know he hasn't won in a while. I'm still all in on him, and he's so consistent. He's so consistently good. He's due to win, and I think this might be his week to win.
Okay, that's fair.
I also think to answer your question, I think he wins at least once this year.
I think so too.
The whole thing in Korea in the off season in the fall, when he had to avoid South Korean military service by winning their national championship, and he had to make a birdie on the 18th hole to win that championship. Like, that kind of took some pressure off of him, and I think that kind of gets him back on track. And I can see him winning maybe even multiple times this year.
People forget how young he is. He's 25 years old. Like, I mean, he's the same age as Victor Hovland. Like you
Yeah.
think these guys are so young and everything like that, but like he's right there too. People just don't think about him.
Yeah. No, I'm huge on Sung J M this week. I'm scared because I've watched that ownership creep up over the last 24 hours, and it's at 20.2, 20.3 right now. And I expect it to continue going up. But I don't know what my cutoff will be for him in my player pool, but right now he is still in it. And Patrick Cantlay, hate the guy. Guy's a pain in the ass. But I don't know how you don't play him this week. And
I
I don't
almost
know how
feel
you
like
don't bet him.
I almost feel like that was Xander too. Like
Yeah.
not necessarily betting him, but
Well,
playing him like
I couldn't put them all. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like
No, no,
you
no.
got to pick and choose here.
And to tell you the truth, there really isn't a big difference between Xander and Cantlay, to be honest with you. Like they're about the same golfer, so
Basically, yeah.
yeah.
The only difference this week between those two golfers is about 2.5, 3% ownership.
Right.
That's it.
I have a strong gut feeling about Xander. I don't know why. I never do, and I never really play him, but I
It's
do this
funny
week.
because I had a lost parlay on the Eagles game. Okay, and I had a $10 free bet come in because of my sweat free bet on the Eagles game. And I was like, $10. I don't normally bet that much straight up on a golfer. I'm like, I'm gonna put that on one of the top guys. I'm like, do I put it on 9-1 Patrick Cantlay or 9-1 Xander Schauffele? And I chose Patrick Cantlay to put that on. So, but it was literally like get a coin out and flip a coin.
Yeah.
Who am I going to choose to put that $10 free
Both
bet
really
on?
good. Both don't win a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. But both, Patrick Cantlay is the slowest of slow players. So if we're going to even lean a little bit into the slow play, it obviously would help him.
Right.
A
He's
little
not
bit
going to get
considering
pissed
he
because
loves
he's the
slow
slowest
play.
golfer. Yeah.
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 He's literally the slowest golfer in the world. So I don't know. Um, I want to bring something else up. Something that, I don't know what your model looks like this week. I don't know what stats you get, you focused in on. I wanted to bring up a shared screen here real
I
quick.
can tell you if you want.
What's that?
I said I can tell you if you want.
Well, I want to put something up on the screen. I just got to make sure I click on the right one because I got so many tabs opened here. Here it is. All right. So fantasynational.com. That's they're partners and friends with the show. They're the best model making tools out there. Make sure you check them out, fantasynational.com. And if you sign up for any of their stuff, make sure you tell them Fairway to Heaven sent you. This is something I've never done. And I don't know if this is new or just something that I've missed. You can pull up each tournament. Okay, specifically, this is the American Express last year and the shots gained category. So when I was building my model, I thought I was going to put X, Y, and Z in my model. And then I came to last year and I looked at here are your basic shots gained. Everybody in the top 20 gained strokes on approach. Okay. Then I go here and I selected this thing here. Everybody was talking about good drives gained as the most important driving statistic this week. But people in the top 10, 15 lost strokes in that. Nobody lost strokes in fairways gained. Nobody lost strokes in greens and regulation. So I went to this stat here, and then obviously par 5 is something I like a lot this week. You notice short par 5s and par 5s overall, big stats this week. So I was looking at this chart to kind of get an emphasis on what's important. And it's funny, putting is so important, but John Rahm lost 2.2 strokes putting, last year and still won this event. So I don't know if you've ever looked at this page on the Fantasy National website, but do you think there's correlation to, not necessarily thinking about the course, but what won this event last year? What brought you to contend last year? And you could change this year by year.
Mm-hmm.
And this week's event, if you go to 2022 or 2021, it's almost like a mirror image every single year of what stats caused the win. Maybe people should be looking at some of these things more often like this.
That page, along with when you go on the top and you go to course breakdown, that's another page where you could see like what the guys that won, what they gained in, what the guys that finished top 10, top 5, going on to like all the way that they call it trunk slammers, the guys that missed the cut. You could see that's a great way too to see what stats to use too. And like you said, John, everybody talks about this being a putting contest, yet Rahm lost strokes putting last year. He's also arguably
multiple guys. I mean, you had 6th place Robbie Shelton, he lost strokes. 11th place Bazudenhout lost strokes. Scotty Scheffler, top 15 lost strokes. There's lost strokes all over the top 15 in putting. So maybe the putting aspect of it wasn't as important.
The thing is, there's certain guys that can win without putting, even losing strokes putting. There's not that many of them. Rahm, Scheffler, like there's not that many guys that can just come out and putt like crap and still win.
Yeah. But the point I'm making with this also is, you hear every fantasy golf podcasts talk about their model, and they live and die by their model.
Yep.
And I don't think it's necessary to live and die by their model or by the model, because let me pull this off, and let me share a different screen here with you, and I'm gonna pull up my model for this week here real quick. I think that's it. Yeah, here it is. Look who's in, sometimes the model is a little off because where is he? Thought he was good in my model. Maybe he's not. Maybe I messed this up. Maybe it was when it was at, am I on the right strokes? 36
What are you
strokes?
looking for?
I was looking for Daniel Berger. Originally, Daniel Berger was really high in my model.
He's
Maybe it was
high in
before
mine too, but the stats
yeah,
are 18 months old. That's the problem.
yeah, exactly. So sometimes you gotta take models and all these people that live and die on their shows with their models, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because the models aren't the end all be all.
So Berger is sixth in my model to kind of go off your point.
I thought I don't know what happened. I thought he was tops on mine. He's 23rd now. Maybe when I had him at 50 rounds or something like that. But yeah, I mean his stats mean nothing.
Here's the real question for you:
Literally,
are you going
his
to play
stats
Berger
mean
this week?
absolutely nothing.
Right. Are you going to play Berger this week?
I might. I just said his stats mean nothing. He might go in one
I
line
noticed that he
just
was
for
starred. So
yeah. Well, he was starred because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to bring him up. I even wrote a note down to wait. Like we didn't know if to wait on Will Zalatoris or not last week. We should have waited on Will Zalatoris. Berger, you should probably wait on. I don't know if you know this about Daniel Berger. He's got 4 career wins. Okay. Did you know where his wins come from?
I know St. Jude twice, I believe.
Yeah. What month is that played in?
I forget where else. Well,
June.
it used to be at
Three of his 4 wins have come in June, and 3
okay.
of his 5 top 5s have come in June as well. He's Mr. June. So
St.
let
Jude
him
used to
build
be
up.
in June, and now it's
What's that?
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
Just wait till June. June's when Daniel Berger heats up. Daniel Berger, just be patient with Daniel Berger this week. This week's also not only is it a deep field, it's a big field. There's like 155 golfers in the field this week. You know what I mean? So top 65 and ties. There are going to be a lot of missed cuts this week. So, Daniel Berger, not necessarily the best option to play this week.
can I ask you a question? If you were going to bet, if you had to bet on one guy, and it was Daniel Berger at 80 to 1 or Zalatoris at 100 to 1, who do you bet?
This week?
Yeah.
I guess Will Zalatoris?
I feel like you have to go Zalatoris.
Because he's at least played one event.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He played like crap, but he played one event.
He played terribly, but at least he played,
Yeah.
No, you got to wait on Zalatoris. All right, so we touched on those top guys. There's no wrong guy in the 10K and above range, and I do love that they put Scotty Scheffler up at 11-4. Maybe that's also why he's down.
I think so.
Dude, then you jump down into that 9K range. I mean, the 9K range has probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 guys in the 9K range. Do any of the names stick out for overpriced? Because I think one guy's overpriced, and I think one guy is underpriced. Or I think there's multiple guys that are overpriced actually
So
in this range.
I just noticed something that I didn't notice before. How the hell is Jason Day 9,600 in this field?
How's he 9,600? How's
Yeah.
Tom Kim 9,900 in this field? Like I know Tom Kim's a good golfer, but how's he 9,900? And like no offense to Chris Kirk, I know we hyped him up. Him being in the 9K range in
Yeah.
this field when you got someone like Shane Lowry at 8,700, you know what I mean? Down there, like I'm shocked. You got Steven Yeager who hasn't missed a cut in 16 years in the 7Ks. Like I feel like some of these 9K prices are a little off.
I think so too. I mean, JT Poston's another one, and I think his ownership reflects that. He's been awesome. And then you have guys that I think Eric Cole's underpriced. I think Poston's underpriced. I think Clark's way overpriced. It's like he's still getting that major love when you have guys in the lower 8Ks that have been playing really good. I mean, Hadwin missed the cut last week, but he's been really good. Batea's been really good. Montgomery's been good and has good course history here. So it's weird. There's some weird pricing this week.
Yeah, I mean, I actually look at this, and this is where I'm going to save an ownership percentage in the 9K because Tony Finau has good course history. Not great, but good course history. Tony Finau's a great golfer. He's sub 10%. Sam Burns, 10%. Good golfer. I'm looking there. You know what I mean? I'm looking down at 8,700. Shane Lowry, a former major champion, at 5% ownership at 80. I know it's the first time this season he's played, but still, he's Shane Lowry. Wouldn't you rather a 5% Shane Lowry at 8,700 or a Tom Kim at 9,900 and 15%?
Right.
Like where are you clicking? You know what I mean?
That's a good point too. And I think Cole, the way Eric Cole's been playing, 8,800, that's way too cheap. That
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense to
and
me.
and that's why he's right now pushing 20% ownership.
Right,
I
right.
mean, I think I think they got the prices on the top 4 right. 11-4 for Scheffler is strong. Him being 10-1 with his course history is really good. You know, Xander and Patrick Cantlay are the other best golfers in this field. But I think after that, they really made a lot of mistakes in this field. I don't know if DraftKings just didn't know that there was going to be such a deep field, and they didn't really know how to lay it all out.
I think you kind of mentioned him a little bit, glossed over him. Is Sam Burns is really interesting to me this week.
Yeah,
This seems like an event that he could win easily to me, and he has good course history here. I mean, he has a T11, a T6, and a T18
yeah,
here, and a miscut.
yeah.
But in the past 4 appearances here, so
But
obviously,
hasn't Sam Byrne also
that's
won some of the funky events in the past too?
well, this is the kind of event he wins. The
Yeah.
easier course, like
Well, didn't he
random
win the
event
match
because the
play
dude's
as
can
well?
score. Yeah,
You know, like, and that's just a funkier, different style. Like we've seen him win funky events. He's had decent success here. You know, yeah, easy courses. I like Sam Burns a lot this week. He's on my player pool
I love
right now.
Sam Burns.
He's not got the maybe star next to it. He's got the play next to it. And at 10%, I love the idea at 9,400 compared to the rest of this field.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. All right. Anybody else in this range? I mean, I did bet Tom Kim to win. Some reason the 9,900, the fifth highest priced guy in this field. I forget. I didn't write it down, but I remember it wasn't much. He was 25-1 to outright to win. It was like the 14th best odds to win, but he was priced 9,900. And I kind of felt like those two things didn't match up. So I did throw a couple bucks on Tom Kim at 25-1. I just don't know if I can get 20% Tom Kim in my lineup regularly.
There is one
I
guy
almost
that
feel
I'm
like if you bet Tom or if you play Tom Kim, you gotta eliminate Cantlay or Im from your player pool.
I think so too. Too much ownership.
Yeah,
100%.
and the
I
same price.
think an interesting name that I'm shocked is only 10% owned is JT. I mean, like we kind of saw him start to climb out of his little funk a little bit at the end of last year. He's been good. So I mean, for him to be that price, just I don't know, and that ownership seems a little
Is
weird to me.
ownership percentage skewed because of people are forgetting how he tried to climb out of it at Fortnite and at the Wyndham and stuff like that? Are they still seeing three of his last 5 events missed cuts and,
See, I think it's more
all the
of
missed
he
cuts at
hasn't.
the US Open and stuff?
I think he hasn't played in a while. I think that's scaring people more. I think
Okay.
we saw him start to play well, but people haven't seen him. But I
Mhm.
forget who I was listening to some podcast today, and they brought up the point. They're like, he didn't qualify for the Tournament of Champions, so him going to Hawaii for one event really didn't make any
Yeah.
sense. So that's probably why he didn't play last week.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have a problem with Justin Thomas. I
No,
just look at it. You basically just got to pick 1 or 2 of the top guys from 9,900 up, and you got to pick 2, maybe 3 of these 9K guys. You can't pick them all. And if I had to pick, I'm taking Im, I'm taking Burns, and honestly, I know it's kind of crazy. I'm probably taking Finau as well in this range from 9K up. They're probably if I only could take 3, if from 9K up, it would be that Im, Burns, and Finau.
if I could take 3, I would go Poston, Burns, and Xander.
Poston, Burns, and Xander. Yeah, again, I could make the Xander flip
Right,
if you
right.
twisted my arm, I would have no
You
problem
can't
making
lay
Xander.
Xander flip. Yeah, it doesn't really
Yeah, yeah,
tell you much.
exactly. It all the same. All right, so back down into the 8K range here. I already mentioned Shane Lowry. I'm shocked. He finished 6th in my model. Again, models are skewed a little bit, but he does a lot of things really well that you really need in this event. And I think the price, the ownership percentage, I know it's his first round. It could totally kick me in the ass, come Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. But I like Shane Lowry in this range. And honestly, I start a lot of guys in this range to talk about him, but he might be the only guy I play in this entire range.
See, I love this range. I
Really?
like 3 guys towards the bottom. I like Montgomery, Batea, and Hadwin. I like probably Batea the best. Actually, Batea,
Okay.
he's just been so good. It's like he's putting up numbers that are. I mean, he's not contending, but he's like finishing in the teens every week, and he's just been really good. I feel like a win is coming, especially on these easier courses. So I like him a lot. And then Montgomery, like we've seen him. We saw him do this last year at the beginning of the year, where he gets rolling. He's a great putter, a great short game. He can't drive the ball at all. He might be the worst ball striker on tour, but his short game's elite. So I really like him a lot this week too.
Talk about Montgomery because it's so funny. You mentioned Montgomery, off the air last week. Montgomery was a guy we thought was going to break out last year.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at his thing. going back to 2022 at the Fortnite Championship in September, went 3rd, 9th, 15th, 13th, 10th, 15th, 12th, 5th. You know, he was doing so well. And then started with the Waste Management Phoenix Open with a missed cut. He went miscut, miscut, 39, 44, miscut, miscut, 50, 65th, 41st, miscut, 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 37th, miscut. And all of a sudden, the last couple events he's played in from the fall to now, he's right back to form.
He did the same thing
Did
last
he just
year.
did he hit like a sophomore slump or something last year?
I think it's course fit. Like,
Yeah.
there's certain courses that fit this guy. Waste Management's not one of them. None of the majors are going to be one of them. Like, he's just the guy that's an easy course guy. He can't drive the ball at all. His approach game's god awful, but he's got a good short game. So these putting
You like him
contests,
even at north of 15% ownership this week?
I do.
Yeah. All right. All right. You
Do
just
you?
so you know, since we're at this part here, the screen, Daniel Berger's projected at 3.2% ownership at
Too
8K.
high.
Come on. Does
Too
that
high.
intrigue you just a touch?
Too high. No.
No, 3% does not intrigue you.
What's his price?
8K even.
God, that's insane.
That
for
is
him to
insane
be
for a
8K.
guy that hasn't played in 18 months.
Yeah, he should be 7,400, 7,500.
Come on.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods, his first Masters after he missed all that time, was priced like 73 or 7,400.
Yeah.
And that's Tiger Woods at the Masters.
Yeah.
And he made the cut that year. It was two Masters ago. You know what I mean? So if Tiger Woods gets that kind of disrespect, if you want to call it, how's Daniel Berger getting all this respect?
It's crazy.
I don't know. It drives me up a wall there, the Daniel Berger number. Because I want to give him a little support, but I don't know. All right, into the 7K range here. Steven Yeager starts it off there at 7,900. We talked about it a little bit last week. Steven Yeager hasn't missed a cut in about 6 years. Is this the week of deep field like this?
He also hasn't finished top 10 in that time, but it's fine. Somebody said
Yeager.
I forget. I was listening to a podcast today, and somebody said he hasn't finished, like, his highest finish is 9th, but his lowest finish is 45th or something. So it's like he makes every cut. He's never going to contend. He's never going to win. Like, but he's always there.
Since his last missed cut, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finishes outside the top 45.
Yeah.
Out of all those made cuts.
Right.
So, do we overvalue Steven Yeager making the cut that many times in a row?
No, because he scores. So I think it depends. It depends on what his price is. I think it's all price driven with him. When he's
right now, he's 7,900.
Yeah, that's
right
cheap.
now his ownership's at 12%.
Yeah, that's a play for me. If he was 8,500, I have to rethink that because he doesn't have winning upside. But if he's 79, I think that's a play because of how much he scores. I have a really hard time with this range in general. I'll have to see kind of what you think in this range, but there's not a lot of guys I like in the 7s.
I like Aaron Rye. I like Aaron Rye a lot this year. I just think Aaron Rye is going to have a really solid season. 7,700 is a good price, I think, for him. He's at 7% ownership right now. The other thing on this, fantasy national thing that you got to take into account is not just calculated ownership. It's the favorite. How many people starred their names?
Yeah.
How many times? Then there's another column of if people use the lineup generator, how many times that? Not a lot of people are on Aaron Rye this week, and Aaron Rye is another guy. He makes a lot of cuts. He's a solid golfer. He doesn't have any winning upside, almost no winning upside. But he's a guy that's going to make a cut. And he's going to make a ton of birdies. I like Aaron Rye a lot in this range. He also, in my model, over his last 36 rounds, he's number 1 in par 5 scoring. And I think par 5 scoring, you got to make eagles on par 5 this week. You absolutely have to. You got short 500-yard par 5s. You've got to make eagles, and Aaron Rye does that. So I'm an Aaron Rye guy in this range. He will probably get 7 or 8 at least out of 20 clicks this week for me. Davis Thompson's a name that I'm zoning in on. Tom Hoagie, I hate, but Tom Hoagie's getting a lot of hype this week.
I hate Tom Hoagie.
I don't know. I just don't think he's as good as people think he is.
No, he's not.
But he's got solid, inconsistent course history, if that makes sense. 32nd, second, miscut, 6, miscut. So he's got some win potential at this course.
But he's also been pretty bad for decently long stretch of time, too.
Yeah, it's been a while since he had that run at the Players and, the Century last year, like the Genesis. He had a stretch early last year and the fall before it, but he's not been that good. Who did we just talk about that hasn't lived up to the reputation? Wyndham Clark and some of these other names. Tom Hoagie's kind of right in that category.
Yeah, he
I don't
is.
like him, but everybody's on him, so he's
I don't like
kind of
him.
in my window. You know what I mean? I like EVR as well this week in the 7K range.
The only thing about
Van Rooyen.
EVR popped for me too. The only thing that I don't like about him, last time I looked, he was at 14%. What's he at now?
Let me double check. I just got off
12.
that.
So that's still, I don't know, that still
Yeah.
scares me. Chalk EVR scares me.
Yeah, chalky mid sevens, low sevens is kind of scary, but when you look around him on this board, like Davis Thompson is 6, Thomas Dietrich's above him 2%, Nick Taylor below him at 7%, but then you got him sticking out with that 12%. I would love Eric Van Rooyen if he was like 8%, 9%, but 12.5% that gets pricey. But I still got to put some clicks on him because I think he's the kind of guy that could finish top 10 in this event. I really think so.
I have 2 guys at the lower end that I like.
I wonder if they're
Matthew Pavon, I think is how you say his name.
what is it? Matthew what?
Matthew Pavon. He's new to the
There he
PGA
is.
Tour.
Is it Matthew or is it Mateo? Mateo.
I think it's Matthew, isn't it?
Okay. He's got a funky spelling of it.
Matthew Pavon, I think is how you say it.
Okay.
He T7 last week, kind of like nobody even noticed that he finished T7 last week. He
I don't even know who he is.
He's a Corn Ferry guy, if I'm not mistaken. That is just
Okay.
he played really well on the Corn Ferry Tour, and he's come. I mean, T7 last week, obviously not the same kind of course, but I feel like a guy that I don't know about contend, but top 10 upside. And then our guy Christian Bezadenhout is interesting to me too. Really good short game.
Mm-hmm.
He's super streaky, and he's been playing really well overseas. So I don't mind him.
And what was the number one stat this week when I looked at last year was approach, and he's 26 in the last 36 rounds in approach. So that kind of fits him right there. So
and he's a good putter too.
Yeah. Mark Hubbard popped for me this week. He pops always for me. I don't know why. I lose a lot of money on him, but
I love Hubbard, and it never works out ever.
Yeah, exactly. Another guy, a guy that popped last week, and he was 6,700 last week. I missed the cut, and I played him last week. Popped again this week. His price went up to 7K this week, and he's coming off a missed cut. So how in a deeper field, he misses a cut, goes to a deeper field, and his price increases. That's where my problem is this week with the pricing. Doug Gim went from 6,700 to 7K, and I started him because I start everybody that's in the top 20, top 25 of my model, but there's no reason for his price to have increased like that. Like no reason whatsoever.
Can I give a disclaimer? Doug Gim will always be in the top of your model, no matter what. Like he's 7th in mine. He's
9th.
He's a stat guy. He's like Alex Smalley's the same way, where it's like Alex Smalley, if he didn't pop in stat models, people wouldn't like him as much as they do.
Right.
I think because he's Doug Gim. I mean, 3rd in approach, 4th off the tee, 19th around the green. I mean, like his numbers are solid, but he's just not a very good golfer.
10th fairways gained we can throw in there, 17th on approach, 11th in greens in regulation, 14th in par 5 scoring, but he stinks.
Smalley's the same way.
Got more expensive.
Smalley always pops in everyone's model, and everybody talks about him and how they bet him all the time. That guy stinks. Like, I don't know.
All right, let's see this 6K range real quick. Any names that jump out at you?
No.
The star of this range, our best friends in this range. Who's our best friend? Michael Block. He's back.
Oh, God.
He's 6K. I didn't even know that till 5 minutes before the show. I saw somebody else tweet out about Michael Block. Totally forgot all about him, but he's in it. You've got some guys in the low 6K that have great for a 6K price course history. You got Landry, who's won this event in the past. He's at a flat 6K. You got Roger Sloan, who's had really good success in this event, but is a terrible golfer. Zach Johnson, terrible golfer, terrible Ryder Cup captain, but has had great course history here. Any of the low 6K guys, before you get to the top 6K guys, any of those low 6K guys entice you at all?
I'm going to give you a little disclaimer. I don't like anyone in the 6K range this week.
If I was
going to pick anyone in the 6K range, it would be Vincent Whaley, because I liked him last week a little bit, but he missed the cut. But I think the interesting one's going to be Carl Yuan. Do people play him again? I mean, two 4th places in the last 3 events. But he's going to be.
He's one of those guys that probably should have been priced a little higher, if anything.
Yeah, that's probably a mistake in the pricing.
Yeah, exactly.
They have that 3% ownership. That's surprising to me.
But don't you with Scheffler, with Cantlay, with Xander, all these guys that we want to play in the 9 and 10K range, don't we've got to find 1 or 2 of these guys, to stick in there? To
Kinda
me,
do.
it's either pick 1 and use them a bunch of times or pick 3 or 4 of them and just spread out your exposure to these guys.
See, I think going up just a little bit, you can get a lot better golfers.
What, like
That's
to
the
the
big
low 7Ks?
Yeah, if you go in, like, the low
But what,
7s,
like, just use Yon, Carl Yon, or
yeah.
say, like Johnny Vegas popped for me this week. Tyler Duncan popped for me this week. Would you rather, one of those guys, or would you rather Doug Gim at 7K?
Not dug in. But I'd rather go
So,
to Kazir's 7K. He has good course
yeah,
history
Kezire's
there.
one of my guys this week.
Um,
I actually bet
Pavon,
him.
like we talked about before, I like
What what
him.
what did I say on the kickoff show? I'm not gonna bet bombs anymore in long shots.
Yeah.
So why did I bet 200 to 1 Kaziri this week? I threw $1 on
He has good
200
course
to 1 Kaziri this week.
good course history.
He does.
I think he's been
He
playing
does.
pretty well too, if I'm not
He
mistaken.
has. I don't get it. Like I convince myself
Yeah.
always I'm gonna change things, and then I always go right back to them. And
13th, 44th, 37th, 15th in his last 4. Pretty good.
yeah. And he's a guy that scores.
Yeah.
He's a I don't know if he's a birdie maker per se, but he's definitely a DraftKings fantasy golf scorer.
And he's a guy that when he pops on the course, he pops. Like
Yeah.
there's not that many courses that he pops on, but when he does, he does.
All right, let's do some lineup building here. Okay. I'm gonna pull up my DraftKings
New rule
here.
this year. If you lose, you go first the next week. We're not gonna let the winner go first.
Okay. So I gotta go first
You
in the
go first.
DraftKings lineup. All right. Well, we'll just start right at the top. My favorite play at the top. I'm gonna go so I've got my screen up here. I put this in the single entry, $1 single entry event last week. It obviously bombed big time. I'm just gonna start right off the bat with Sung J M.
Sanjay M. Okay. I'm gonna go with my man, Matthew Pavon.
Who?
Salary saver.
I say who when you say
Salary
that?
saver.
Man, it's terrible, but I love it.
That is terrible. I hate it.
We're going Pat Kaziri with my next pick.
I like that pick.
Yeah, I like him. I guarantee he's he's a guy that gets 5 clicks or more this week. He'll be 20% exposure for me at a minimum this week.
I'm gonna go a little safer since I picked Pavon in the first one. I'm gonna go Eric Cole, my second pick.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe play.
Yeah.
I don't know if Cole will end up making my player pool in the end. I'm just not really sure about it. I just
8,800.
kind of feel like, what did I say last week? He's going to be one of those guys that I lose a lot of money on, and I'm scared to lose any money on him. So I don't know. I'd rather other people make money on him than me jinx him and make him lose money.
Okay, that's fair.
So we're going to go Shane Lowry next because again, I'm all over Shane Lowry this week at 5% ownership.
5% ownership. That is pretty damn good.
I mean, you're talking about a former major champion here.
It is true. I'm gonna go with. We talked about him earlier. I'm gonna go Montgomery.
Yeah, I did bet Montgomery. I don't know if he'll make my player pool, but he was 55 to 1 to win, and you said every reason why I bet him. Like he's this type of course fits him perfectly. So I 55 to 1 for Montgomery with the way he played last week. I thought it was a really strong number. So I did bet him this week.
What do you have left for
win of the
salary? 8,000.
What's that?
8,000 for salary.
Yeah, that's not good. I'm already in a stuck spot right now. We'll go Aaron Rye. That'll save me a few bucks here down at the bottom. It won't help me a lot just yet, but I'll go Aaron Rye. Like I said, I guarantee Aaron Rye is a guy that is in every week he plays, he will be in my player pool. I'll just say it right now.
I'm gonna go gut feeling. I'm going Akshay Bhatia again.
Tell you, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know about him in a deeper field. Is he good enough to contend in a deeper field?
No, he's my gut. I don't know. I have a weird feeling about him.
All right, I got to think about this next play here. I got to think how I'm gonna. I need to get somebody in the upper 8s, or let's just pick somebody in the upper card, and then we'll just. Well, let me see what it puts me at money. If I just put like a Burns or a Finau, it puts me at 71. That means I got to play Doug Kim. No, not happening.
Oof.
That's brutal. See, this is the problem this week with these prices. You put one guy like Sung J M in there, and then I'm stuck with not many options unless I want to go really deep down this board. That's really tough. Who's left? This is more a lesson here than anything else. Like Hadley, great. I guess you can go with the last week's winner, Grayson Murray. I
Don't do
guess.
it. Don't
No,
do it.
I know. I'm like, you don't want to go Doug Gim, Dylan Wu. No, not this week. I guess you could go Whaley and leave some on the table. I don't know. I don't know where you go with that. Man, can I say pass?
I would
I
like to
can't.
pass my pick.
I don't want to pick yet. I want to pass. Yeah, I
Didn't a
don't know
team
where
do
to
that in
go.
the NFL draft a couple years ago? They missed their pick. I feel like it was Minnesota. Like
Really? I
they
don't know.
did. Their time ran out, and then the team behind them went to go pick.
Okay. Yeah, I don't
Anyways,
remember that, but yeah, that could definitely be a thing right there. Um, man. All right, I'm doing it anyway. I'm going Sam Burns anyway. I'll figure this while you're thinking of your next move.
well,
I will be thinking.
my next move is not going to be hard.
Oh, it's not
Sorry, I'm going JT Poston.
Poston. You love yourself some Postman.
I do. I was going to go Burns actually right there, but you kind of
Oh,
made
were
my
you? Do
decision
you
for
want
me.
Burns? I will
No,
trade
no,
you
no, no.
Burns if you want me to trade you Burns.
Do you want Burns?
No,
No, I'm good.
I don't want Burns. Not in the situation I'm in right now.
It would be a great
Um,
GM. Do you want Jalen Hurts? You can have him.
yeah, you can have Jalen Hurts. I don't need anything for him. You can just have him. You know what? Even though we just said no, I'm just gonna round out my lineup with Doug Gim, even though I hate the idea. This is gonna be a 5 out of 6 lineup with Doug Gim missing the cut. But
I'm gonna go.
but I'm taking him because but seriously, I mean, I guess I could go Vincent Whaley, but outside of that, unless I drop really far down here, like
Yeah, the
it's not.
6K is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's really weak. I guess I could go Tyler Duncan, but I'll just stick to Gim.
I'm going Adam Hadwin.
Hadwin, yeah, it's a good pick. It's a nice solid pick. What does that leave on the table for you?
That leaves
Just out of
$300
curiosity.
on the table for me.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Locking it in. Update entry. It's in. First
Mine is
lineup
also
of the week.
Don't enter these in
Still.
the single entry, please.
Yeah. Don't enter. Yeah. Do
Because
not.
mine's in it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Do not enter them in the single entry, please. I beg you. Put them in something else. I actually really do like my lineup there, and I like yours too. The only one I'm torn on the ownership percentage of your lineup, not the actual choices of your lineup.
For sure.
And I don't know who Pavon is because even though he finished well last week, I don't even know who he is. So that's the only
Fair.
downside to his lineup. All right, one and done. Last week I had Chris Kirk. You had the Postman.
Mhm.
Where are you going to go? We'll flip the script here. You can pick first here. I mean, we could double up if you want to. It doesn't matter in this thing, but
I don't know what I'm going to do in this one. I'm going to save the big dogs again. I'm going to go Montgomery.
Montgomery. It's an interesting one and done. See, I was debating here about going with Sung J M, who I love, and I think is going to win this year, maybe even multiple times. Do I think he breaks it out right now? Or do I go someone crazy, someone that I like this week, but I can't play because I can't play Tom Kim in DraftKings. At 9,900 at his ownership percentage, I can't play him, but I did bet him. Do I play Tom Kim or do I go Sung J M this week? And that's where I'm stuck here. Do I waste my Sung J M bullet this week? I'm going to go Tom Kim. I'm going to save my Sung J bet because Sung J is going to be in a lot of lineups, so I'm going to have plenty of exposure. You know,
So you're hedging your bet. I like it.
Yeah. Basically, even though we've got a beer on the line for this competition, that's about it.
We'll figure out something cool to bet.
We'll figure out something. Yeah, exactly.
We should bet. Never mind. I'm not even going to say it.
Trip to Clearwater? I don't make that kind of money, my man.
I was going to say a trip to the divisional round, but my team hasn't.
Oh, here we go. All right.
Team,
with that,
my team hasn't won a playoff game in 30 years. I'm not allowed to talk any trash to anyone.
On that comment, I will give you the opportunity to ask me or say one negative Eagles thing to me to end this show.
All right. Well, mine's a question, not a negative thing. We already asked you what the hell happened, so that's not it. Is Nick Sirianni the coach 1 week from today? Is he still the head coach?
Oh, you're not saying next year. You're saying 1 week from today. Wow. Um, I, I can't answer that. I mean, I think he should be, even though that goes against everything I've said and tweeted. Um,
The franchise
but
is pretty loyal to head coaches until
no, it's
recently.
not.
Until recently.
I mean, actually, no. Jeffrey Lurie bought the team at the end of, after the 1993 season. 1994, he fired Rich Kotite after 1 year. Then he went to Ray Rhodes, let him coach for 3 years. Then had Andy Reid for a long stretch. Then went Chip Kelly less than 3 years. Doug
No, I guess
Peterson,
not.
the
Maybe
only
maybe
Super
tomorrow.
Bowl champion, 5 years, and now
Yeah.
Doug Peterson's in year 3. So outside of Andy Reid, we have had no stability at head coach ever in the franchise history.
If you can I ask another question? First, you got to answer my other question. If you had to bet, is he the head coach next week? Sirianni.
Yes.
Okay.
I think he is. I think they give him a very short leash and they hire an offensive or defensive coordinator that has head coaching experience, and they tell him, you got 4 or 5 weeks to prove you got it. And then it's like they'll hire Vrabel. I heard a rumor that they were going to give Mike Vrabel head coaching money to be the defensive coordinator. So that if Sirianni fails,
Vrabel doesn't do
Vrabel
that.
can slide right in.
Vrabel
Everybody
does
in
that.
Philly wants Frank Reich as the offense coordinator. He can
Uh-huh.
slide in as head coach if Sirianni fails. That is going to be the route. They're going to hire an established coordinator as the assistant head coach with the understanding that you take over if we fire Nick Sirianni. That's what I think will happen.
Interesting offensive coordinator name, I think. I started thinking about this today a little bit. Arthur Smith would be a decent
I
offensive
thought about
coordinator.
Arthur Smith, the interim offensive coordinator up in Buffalo, Joe Brady. He's a name that I was thinking of today. I've already started thinking about, because we know the Eagles are going to fire their offensive defensive coordinator. Matt Patricia, their interim one, he's gone too. All these guys are gone. You're going to have to bring in new names. What are your thoughts? I'm going to ask you a question because you got the Lions going. Are they playing Saturday night or Sunday?
Sunday.
Sunday.
Afternoon.
Ben Johnson is a big name. Is he the real deal, or is he more like Brian Johnson, who is a lot of hype, and then once he gets some responsibility, he's going to crash and burn?
I think he's the real deal. I think he is the Seattle Seahawks next coach. That's my prediction. They asked for permission to interview him yesterday, I believe. I think he's the real deal. I think he's just, I don't want to say a genius mind, but like he's got a mind that's different than everybody else.
Well, all those other names you mentioned, Arthur Smith, Joe Brady, all those, they were genius minds till they became head coaches.
True.
Just saying. I thought of somebody else's name and now I can't think of it.
Just Arthur Smith. Okay, I don't think Vrabel goes as a defensive coordinator. I like the idea, but he wanted control of player personnel in Tennessee too. So
and that is what does not happen. I don't know how much you know about Philadelphia sports, but the general manager Howie Roseman isn't just in charge of the team, like the draft and the trades. He literally has say over who dresses on the 53-man roster on game day. Nick Sirianni can't even choose.
Right.
And the story goes that Doug Peterson's relationship after the Super Bowl got fractured in Philly because in 2019 we beat the Packers on a windy day in 2019 by running the ball like 60% of the time. And he got called into the principal's office and told, why did you run the ball so much? We want passing. And that's when the relationship started to break between Doug Peterson. Howie Roseman is one of the greatest GMs in the NFL, but he's also one of the biggest problems in the NFL. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, I get you.
Does Detroit win?
They do. They win this week and then they lose next week to San Francisco, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think Tampa Bay's ass. So I'll just say it.
Tampa Bay,
we're worse than ass for losing to them, but yeah.
Tampa Bay's strength is the run defense, but Detroit's run game is awesome right now. So I feel like they're going to pressure Baker. Their Lions defense isn't good, but they're going to put a lot of pressure on Baker, and I think that Baker's not going to be able to keep up with how much they're going to score.
And Tampa's run defense is really good, but we put up over 200 rushing yards week 3 against them. So they can be had if you have the right scheme and the right play call. So, and
the Lions, I mean, in terms of like two backs, like a backfield, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is about as good as it gets.
Yep,
so
absolutely agree with you. Well, good luck. I hope you crush the Buccaneers for us.
Brand new Lions.
Oh, I like that. Is that their new saying?
Same old Lions are dead. The brand new lines
to
are
the
weird.
one pride? Why did the one pride go away?
I don't know. I was so confused on Twitter about that. It changed to all grit or something because that's what Dan Campbell said one day.
I want Twitter to change fly equals fly because I ain't flying anywhere, but I don't have enough say on Twitter to do that. So.
Right.
All right. We're gonna wrap up Fairway to Heaven here. We'll be back next week, 9 p.m. again. Hopefully, talking some wins for us next week, and also hopefully talking a Lions win next week. And
Go Lions,
hopefully,
baby.
the Eagles know what they're doing with their coaches and coordinators. But
That's
that's a trending in the AM thing. Everybody have a great night. I hope everybody's well. If you're in the Philadelphia area, stay bundled up. It's cold. I'm assuming it's cold in Detroit because it's always cold in
It's
Detroit.
5 degrees in Detroit right now. 5.
Yeah. So everybody bundle up. Everybody be safe if you're out on the roads. We will be back next week, 9 p.m. And make sure you like, subscribe, share, retweet, follow. Whether you're watching on replay, make sure you shoot Jason Sullivan to follow at jsully2121. I'm sure he will answer any of your DFS questions that you have if you shoot him to him. And if you ask me anything at Beard of Knowledge, I'll probably ignore you. No, I'm just kidding with you on that. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. What do I say on the morning show where your opinions actually matter? Everybody have a great night. We'll be back next week, guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Trending in the AM, where we ask the question: should Nick Sirianni be the head coach? Talk to you later, guys. Have a good night.